It's super late Sunday night. I am, aside from my normal gray hairs, completely covered in drywall putty. You can see it's all over me. I just wiped my face. I was wearing a mask and it was still everywhere. Like, you cannot avoid getting covered in this stuff. But I'm excited because I just sanded the 3 main walls here. I still have to sand the closet, but I think I still need a couple more layers of paint, and I'm not willing to wait like 3 more days to start getting paint on this wall. So I think I can close that door, contain some of the dust, and work in there later if I want to. Well, I will need to for sure. We're gonna get the background color paint on this wall. So remember, I made this color using the Oops paint that we had from the living room when we first started getting some of the renovations done in this house. We bought 2 different kind of grayish tan colors. Neither one of them really looked right on the wall. They looked a little bit like too orangey pink for the living room. It would have been too dark. So I mixed 50% of 1 can of a tan grayish color and then 50% of the leftover paint from our rust colored staircase, and created the color that's going to be the background for me to be able to create this faux horse peel and stick wallpaper. I know the horse print is not for everyone, but this is going to be my dream craft room space. I want this to be completely us, completely me and the boys, and we're just going to go with it. We are both, like me, Dayton, and Chase, all 3 of us are obsessed with this print. We saw it online. We have to try to recreate it. I'm going to use my Cricut to do the stenciling. We're going for it. It's late. Everyone's going to be heading to bed soon, but I can't go to bed until I get this color on the wall. Okay, it's foggy a little bit in here because I just did the drywall sanding. I have made quite a mess. I try to clean it up as best as possible. I have the walls, this wall, and the door wall completely sanded and ready for paint. All right, we're going for it. It's looking really dark right now because there's absolutely the worst lighting in here, but I have everything trimmed, ceiling and both sides. You can really see what that yellow would have looked like at nighttime, and I really don't like it, so I'm glad that I've made this change. Ready to roll the paint on. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like in the daylight tomorrow, because right now, obviously, you cannot even tell at all what the color looks like. First coat's painted. You can see we're wet all over the place. Color looks terrible right now. You literally can't see what color it's gonna be. But this whole wall is painted, waiting for coat 2. Coat number 1 is dry, basically dry, and I'm going to put on the second coat before I head to bed. Second coat is on, time for bed. I guess I'll come back to this in the morning so we can get the horses on. And luckily for me, this color seems to be incredibly forgiving because this is an old house and the walls are not perfect, nor is my drywall job. And so I'm really happy that you really can't see any of the seams. There's a few small little spots that I can touch up later if I decide to, but it looks pretty good considering I'm not a drywaller. Okay, it is about midnight now. It's time to get myself cleaned up so that we can get this cardboardy drywall stuff out of my hair, off of myself, and get some clothes in the laundry. And then tomorrow is a new day. This will be dry enough by morning that we can start stenciling our horse pattern on to create that faux peel and stick wallpaper. And while I was working on this tonight, I had a really good idea for something I'm going to do on the back wall of the actual closet here, because I think I am going to take the door off this closet. It just doesn't make sense that this door is going to open into this small space. So if the door is going to be open, I want to have a focal point on the wall at the back of the closet. So I think I'm going to do a different idea, sort of a pattern that will kind of complement with the horses, but not be horses. I'll show you a little snippet of maybe what I'm going to do on there, but I want to try out the horse stencil tomorrow and make sure that it's going to work and look the way that I want it to before I get too carried away with my plan. And I also kind of figured out what I want to build for some shelving on the one wall here that the TV used to be on in the boys' sort of gaming movie room in here. And I think if the horses go well tomorrow, I can also get the white paint on the wall on the other 2 side walls. So I think that's going to be a huge accomplishment if I can get that done tomorrow. So fingers crossed. Good morning. So I have kind of a little makeshift operation going on right now. I have my laptop here sending my first stencil for the horse pattern on the wall to cut here on the Smart Stencil vinyl. Last night I got this wall painted 2 coats. I did do a couple of little patch spots here where it just wasn't perfect. And of course I want to make it really nice. So I just did a couple little things of putty. So I need to sand those. But what I want to do is I want to test out two separate samples. One really detailed horse that's more like sketchy, and one that's really reduced. And we're going to see after we put them on the wall, before I paint and touch these up, which one we like better before we get any further. 87% cutting right now. Cricut is doing its magic. Let's hope this works. And I think you can see so much better in the daylight now what color this is, how it's like a soft, more of like a smoky kind of orangey rust color. Definitely not brown like you could see. It looked like a really dark orangey brown. I think the paint was super forgiving. It did a really good job. You can see a few blemishes on the wall, but it's going to be, like right here, you can see the light is like reflecting kind of differently on that spot because probably need maybe one more coat, which I can try to do. But overall, I'm really happy with the color, and the cabinets are gonna be covering this wall anyways, so I have putty everywhere, even though I keep mopping, but I'm going to also try, right now I'm cutting with the actual like stencil, smart stencil material that Cricut makes. If I'm gonna do the whole wall, I'm gonna be using a large roll, which is going to be a cost. So I'm going to use a fresh light Cricut mat here, and I'm gonna try to use some just regular like shelf adhesive and see if I can cut on that to make this not quite as costly of a project, but I do have enough of the stencil material if I have to use it. So here is the comparison of the one on the left, which is more of an artist sketch looking. And then my friend did this really nice, more reduced, minimalist looking kind of vibe here and cleaned up all the lines for me to see if the stencil was going to be easier. So now I'm gonna put one of each on the wall and see how I like the effect of both, and then I can choose which way I'm going to go. So while my stencil's cutting out, what I wanna do is I just went outside and measured the width of those two cabinets. I wanna put one on one side of the wall, one on the other, and probably have a counter or a table that can go in between them that can get tucked away or pulled out if I wanna use it, so on wheels will be great. But we have a mansard roof, which means that the angle of our house outside is an angle like this. So we don't have a straight wall, which is why you can see we have an angle here on this side of the room. So in order for me to know exactly where my cabinet's gonna go to know kind of where I need to do the stenciling, don't really need to do all the stenciling behind the cabinets. I might decide to after, but I wanna do the main ones at the beginning to see if I like it first, before I get carried away and start on one end and then get to here and realize I don't like it. So I'm gonna measure maybe an inch or two in from the top corner and do a level straight line down here, and then I'll be able to see, okay, where's 32 inches on this side. I can tuck it right into the corner on this side if I want to, measure 32 inches out, so I have my long level, and I'm going to do a really thin pencil line. I can always paint over it, but you won't really see it, it's gonna be behind, and you know I'm gonna end up painting over it because I'll know there's a pencil line back there, but I wanna be able to do it so I can see where I need to really work on the stencil first. So because I'm short, we're gonna go from here. So if I go level from the corner, I might even go the level width apart, which I think would be good because I'm gonna need space to open the door. And so that's the angle of the room, so I really need to be way out here. It's such an optical illusion, but that is telling me that that's level, which clearly is not. Let's try that again. To the eye, it looks not level, but the level hopefully doesn't lie. Okay. So, stand back and look at it, I guess. We're gonna trust the level. Okay. So then 32 inches in from that. Okay, so I kind of want to be in between there and the end. And then this side, I'll go 2 inches from the end, right in the middle to get myself started. So I have my Cricut Smart Stencil and a piece of transfer tape on top, and I'm just going to be able to transfer my image then onto the wall and remove the transfer tape to be able to sponge paint over the parts that I wanted. So I weeded out all of the parts that I want to show up black on the image. First horse on the wall. I like the size of it because I didn't want the images to be very big. Pick up these wedges that you can use for makeup. I don't really use them for makeup, but they're the best ones that I've been able to find. It just says that they're latex free, they're for professional. I picked them up at the Dollarama for $1.25. I haven't found these anywhere else other than them. And usually when you buy these, they're very spongy and they have like a weird texture. These are really smooth and they work the best for stenciling. So I'm not sure what's so special about these ones, but they definitely work better than any of the other ones I've bought, and I've bought them on all different sites online, basically in makeup, cosmetic sections all over the place. None of them work as good as these ones. I just use the thin part, so I hold them on either side, push my finger in the middle, and then it doesn't blot out a whole lot of paint at one time. I want this to look faded. I don't want it to look solid black. First horse is on the wall. Ready?
I'm ready.
Ready? I'm doing it. It's gonna take me a long time to do a lot of these on the wall. If I go with the more detailed pattern, like with the bleeding.
And I like the size you chose.
Yeah, I like that too. Thank you. Okay, ready? I'm gonna blot off a little bit. You're doing it. Okay, ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you think my vision's actually gonna look like what I think it's gonna look like?
Oh yeah.
Okay, faded. Faded, Elysia. Light faded. Not solid. Do not want it to be like it's black drawn on. I want it to look sketchy, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay if some parts are more faded than others, because that's more like the shaded sketch look. The only worry, because I've not done this with this material, would be that if it just pulls the paint off the wall, because it's a stencil material and not vinyl like I normally use. Oh no! It did. Because it's so grippy. The stencil stuff's too strong. Okay. Well, let's see what the horse is gonna look like, and then, dang, that sucks.
Maybe the paint's not fully cured, maybe?
I think just this Smart Stencil material is so strong compared to a regular vinyl that I would normally use, or a MAC tack.
The horse looks adorable, though.
Well, I gotta get the oh, that sucks. Okay. Oh well. Plan B. I'm gonna look at what the horse is gonna look like before I paint it over, and then, oh, the stencil's amazing, but that was too strong. That was not ideal, but you can see just how amazing the stencil for the horse looked, but it just pulled all of the paint off of the wall. Like, look at how beautiful the stencil looks, and it looks so nice with the color on the wall. It turned out exactly how I wanted it to, but obviously I can't have it take the paint off the wall. So now I need to figure out how I'm gonna do it without having it remove the paint. Look at that image though, so good. I'm not really having much luck. I just tried to use this duck removable vinyl here that you would use for like shelf liner, or like a MAC tack. I tried to put it on a light grip mat and cut it. Problem is it just started like pulling and taking out, kind of getting stuck to the blade of the Cricut Maker. So that didn't work. And just for curiosity's sake, I wanted to know if this kind of like MAC tack was gonna peel the paint off the wall. It barely even sticks to the wall, but I can get it to stay there long enough where I can stencil it, pull it off. It removed just like a tiny little bit. So I'm guessing my paint's not cured enough for me to really be doing this. We're gonna try, right now you can hear I have the Cricut going, some Cricut Smart removable vinyl rather than the stencil vinyl. I'm gonna put this on. It's so tacky, so I'm guessing it's gonna remove the paint, but we're gonna see. So lightly putting it on. Okay. Minuscule amounts. I can handle minuscule amounts because I can touch it up. But if a lot comes off, like I can't be, painting all in between there. Really doesn't remove it, tiny little bit. So I think manageable. We're gonna try to put a horse on the wall with this Smart removable vinyl and see. Not ideal, but the picture is so good. It's exactly how I want it. So hopefully this works. I think I'll try the next one up here so that we're not in the area that we were in at all, so that I can easily paint with this. And I just took some time to sand the couple of patch spots that I did so that when I do roll another coat on, if this one works, then I'll roll another coat, I'll leave it for 24 hours, and then, so it can like cure more, since I did do this like really late last night. Maybe it needs another coat, blend all this in nicely, and then leave it for a day or two and come back. I just want to know that this stencil works if I'm gonna wait another day, because I want it to be perfect. The image really did turn out really nice though with the Cricut Design Space. Like it just traced and came out like a stencil. So good. I just uploaded the image and then I extracted the background and sent it basically to add to Canvas, and it just turned out so nicely. I can do this. It might take me a few different tries of different materials, but I can figure this out. I know I can. It's worth it. Because I think in the end, this is gonna be so dreamy with the cabinets. It's amazing the difference a color makes when you paint a color on the wall. It turned into a completely different color once it was dry. And I don't even like this color here very much because it's way too like light and it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted more of the kind of deep. That's why you never judge the paint by the color in the can because it never turns out to be the way that it ends up being on the wall. Okay, so I just thought of an idea. So if this doesn't work with this smart removable vinyl, which in theory it should because it's removable vinyl, but this paint is pretty fresh. So what I might do is try this. If it works, then great, then, you know, mission accomplished. But if it doesn't work, I think what I'll do is another coat on the whole wall because I'll have to cover up these little oops spots, make sure that my paint is nice and solid there. Leave it for 24 hours. Worst case scenario, I spend $12 and I buy a matte clear coat, sort of like a satin poly that's clear, like no shine to it all, completely matte. So I guess not satin, that would be a matte poly, and roll one coat over the wall. Then do the stencil because I don't think that anything will pull off then. Not ideal, but it would take me literally a half an hour to do it if I had to roll this wall with a clear. And then you wouldn't even know anyways. It would just be as if I painted with a different sheen. So I'm wondering because this paint is so matte and there isn't any gloss to it at all, that's why it's not staying. So the other option would be rather than to do the clear would be to get maybe a small quart, because this took me very little paint at all. Small quart of this color, get it color matched at the store, spend the, you know, under $20 to get the quart of paint, have it have a little bit of a sheen to it, and I bet it won't pull it off. I think my paint is the problem. It's definitely not the stencil product because I've used the Smart Stencil, actual stencil vinyl and permanent and removable vinyl for stencils like this before, and it's never pulled the paint off the wall. So my guess is my oops paint that I did, they were both matte, put them together. I don't have any gloss on the wall, so it's gonna keep pulling it off. That's my thought anyway. Oh, darn it. I can already see. Okay. Well, let's find this. Shucks. Okay, so definitely not the outcome, obviously, that I was hoping for. It just seems that the Cricut vinyl is way too strong a quality, so it's just pulling it off the wall. And then the vinyl that's actually like the MacTac shelf liner is far too thin, so when I cut it, it's just pulling it right off. So I'm gonna try one more cut with the MacTac and just maybe not press as deep with the machine, see if I can do like a lighter cut on it, maybe choose a different type of material that I'm cutting on, see if it doesn't cut as deep, if it won't start pulling the pieces all the way around. Not sure. The other option, like I said, would be to do the paint idea or to have maybe like a silk screen or something made, but then I have to wait and I really want to do this and have this finished. So I'm kind of like just trying to think about what my options are. I can't make a removable stencil because the centers of the images are not connected to the outer line unless I use a reduced version of it, of the actual image, but then it almost looks a little bit too kid-like when I put it on the wall. And I wanted it more like artist sketch looking rather than just a stencil of a horse. So I'm struggling with trying to get my actual vision to look the way that I want it to, but also work on the wall. So right now I'm cutting one last try. Doesn't look like it's pulling up any of the pieces. I switched my settings for my Maker 3 to dollar store contact paper because I know it's really thin and so is this shelf liner. So even though it's like a Duck brand, I thought, why not? At this point, I have nothing to lose. Remember, I live really far, so when I have to go get something, even like paint, I have to drive almost an hour to be able to do that, and then I'll have to come back and paint more. So I'm willing to give this one more go here. I'm probably wasting time. I should be out helping Philip with the posts outside, but I want to try and see if I can get this to cut. Oh, darn it. See, it's starting to pull it up. Okay, so this was basically an utter fail. I can get some of the main sections out, but any of the small pieces, they're just far too thin and they don't stay to the backing for me to be able to transfer it on. So what happens is so there's obviously all this detailing in here. When you use the tool to try to do it, it all comes out together and you can't weed out these tiny little pieces. Okay, so I'm now back to square one. I have some paint drying all in the middle here where it looks super patchy. I'm going to just leave that coat on there and wait, and then I will hopefully be able to go later today. So what I'll do is I'll take my paint that I made out of my my oops cans that I put together, and I'll paint a little piece of wood, just a little chunk like this, about 2 inches by 2 inches. And then when I take it to the hardware store, they'll be able to scan it, they'll color match it, and they'll turn it into a paint that has a little bit more of a gloss to it. That way I can paint this wall. And then I'm gonna have to leave it for 24 hours, probably even 48 hours before I can attempt my stencils again. I have never before had the paint pull off the wall when I was doing it. So the option here is that, so obviously the reason here is that this is fresh drywall with just a few layers of paint on it. And so it's just grabbing everything. The paint is too matte, and now my vinyl for the non-Cricut brand stuff is way too thin, and the Cricut brand stuff is way too good quality, and it's just pulling it off the wall. Yeah. So the other option would be to get black vinyl and then not stencil it and just transfer the vinyl onto the wall, leaving the image there. But then it's not gonna look sketchy. It's gonna look solid black lines, which is not what I wanted. Let's just wait and see. Actually, I do have black vinyl, so maybe I could try that. See what it would look like. Not sure if that's entirely what I wanted, but it's worth a try. I have a vinyl horse. We're gonna give it a go. Pick a spot. Please don't pull the pin off. Please, please, please. That looks so good. Okay. Okay. Now, okay, relatively good. Still a few things that I would take off. Couple tiny little spots. I honestly don't think you would even notice if it was painted or not. It's actually not shiny on the wall because it's a matte vinyl. Not entirely how I wanted to do it, but that might be my only option. I just wanted to see how that was gonna work. Okay, I'm going to walk away from this today. Let me know what you think. Do you think I should just vinyl all of the horses on with black? Remember, I was going for more of like the faded, very like subdued, more like a sketchy look. So having it solid black like that wasn't really what I was going for. Or should I paint the wall with a shinier paint, wait for a day or two, let the paint cure, and then see if my stencils will go on or not, or if that will pull the paint off too. Or if you've done this before and you know maybe what will work for me and you have some mixed suggestions, leave them in the comments section. I'm so not defeated because I know that even though this isn't working, that I'm going to persevere and I'm going to make this idea that I have come to life. I'm in it. I'm going to do this. I know I can figure it out. Even if it takes me several more tries, I don't care if it takes me 20 more tries, I'm going to make this happen. I think that ultimately in the end, the entire vision that I have for this space, it's going to be worth putting in the time to make it exactly the way that I want it. And then if I can get this to work, then I know that I can get my idea to work that I want to do in the closet at the back wall.